From the shadows where the whispers grow, through the night where the warriors flow, feel the power in the tales untold. Lord Ninja Choke takes a strong hold.
Hello everyone, welcome to episode 26 of the Lord Ninja Choke MMA Picks podcast. Today we're going to be discussing UFC Vancouver and all the bets that we placed this week. Before we do that, we're going to go over our results from last week's card. So Will, take us away.
Yeah, honestly, it feels like so long ago. I'm kind of forgetting. It was a pretty good card for me overall. I made 6.56 units profit, which was a 37.46% ROI. Happy with that. Yeah, I mean, got off to a great start with the Julia Pilastri KO at plus 1125, which is a massive number for a prop. Was really happy that one landed. Had Mesquita to win in rounds 1 and 2, which she did, but hopefully was hoping it was going to be a submission in round 1. That's a bit of a shame. The only there were two real issues I made. The first one was Clayton Carpenter, trusting him at plus 100. I thought it was a good bet. I thought he was above Filo, but I think he made some really bad decisions in that fight. Really poor IQ. He did weather a storm, and it looked like it was like, okay, now's your time to shine. Show us what you got, Clayton. And then he just made bad decisions. I don't know why he didn't decide to stand up. Anyway, and then we had the 5-unit bet on Michael Aswell Jr., which some people may have seen. There was a big chaos surrounding the potential injury to his opponent. We saw some things in the weigh-ins regarding the health of his arm. It seemed like he wasn't moving his right arm, and a lot of us capitalized on that collectively, which was great. A 5-unit bet for me on that one at minus 150. I really should have done more with it, but I just wasn't sure if I was kind of like drinking the Kool-Aid and getting really excited about a whole load of nothing. So I could have gone with some KO props, some KO round 1 props, which I'm sure a lot of people did, but I kind of just kept it tight to the money line at minus 150, but I was happy with that. Joel Alvarez came through and finished off a parlay. Don't know how hell he didn't get a finish in that fight, but there we go. Everything was looking amazing until I had Montel Jackson for 4.25 units to win his fight against Figueiredo. And boy, did he lay an egg. I have high hopes for Montel Jackson. I don't really know what happened. It was a really disappointing performance from him. That fight was anybody's to take, but neither man really wanted to really go for it. So that was frustrating. But, it ended on a high. Charles Oliveira, the boy, had a 2-unit bet on him. I had it's strange. Like when we broke it down on the podcast, I hadn't really done too much tape on it because I left it to last breakdown wise. And I just didn't really make the connection. But then once I did a little bit of research, to me, it just seemed so clear that it was going to be a very difficult fight for Gamrot. I didn't expect Oliveira to be quite so dominant. And I do think that Charles's striking is something to be careful of in the future, because I was terrified when he was striking with Gamrot because he leaves his chin up in the air and his hands down so badly these days. But, Oliveira's a pressure guy, and it was surprising to see him cook Gamrot like that. But what a performance from Oliveira on home soil. So really happy for him. Love Charles. Happy to see him get the win at plus 100 as well. It's great. So yeah, a good card, hoping to roll it into Vancouver. So over to you, Dom.
Yeah, it was a good night for me. But to be honest, I had made quite a lot of bad reads. So I was really just saved by having a lot of money on Michael Aswell because of the aforementioned hand injury. So yeah, I had taken Gamrot in the main event, which was a bad read. I hadn't put a lot of money on him, but I also had Lucas Almeida before the hand injury news broke. I had Jonata Deniz. Obviously, that didn't work out very well. But there were some good reads here. Obviously, had Pilastri, I had the KO prop, I had Inside the Distance, I had Filio, and also had him scorecards, no action. So I was kind of heading for like a sort of average or break even kind of night. And then Michael Aswell, bet the house on him and took his KO prop. And in the end, was thinking probably should have taken the round 1. The round 1 would have been 8.5 or plus 750, and I looked at it and I was going to play it, but I thought, you know what, I'm pretty overexposed here. It just felt like one of those occasions that they're not going to come around too often when you have an injured fighter going into a fight, which I honestly thought might get cancelled, because once the news broke, kind of brings the fight into disrepute somewhat, if you know what I mean, if you kind of know the outcome. But it did seem like a little bit too good to be true, so I can understand why people would be hesitant to put too much money on it. So yeah, in the end, it was basically yeah, my most successful betting night. So yeah, can't really complain about that. How did you do, Josh?
Yeah, look at all that red. It's such a beautiful sign of failure, isn't it? Like, holy crap. If you ignore the right side of the screen, it looks great. My locks obviously hit. I'm trying to aim for a 90% rate of hitting the locks by the end of the year, so hopefully that like hits. But if not, then whatever. But ultimately, when it comes to my parlay and old bets, pretty shit. I am devastated. I can't really fathom how badly I missed everything there. Like, I mean, Denise and Pinto ending KO, that was great, but like, if everything else landed, that'd be great too. You know, outside of that, you know, my prediction accuracy is up by 0.1%, so that's mildly okay. But yeah, disappointed, and just yeah, shattered really. So let's move swiftly on.
Yeah, I mean, looks like you had a good night from the prediction standpoint. It goes to show that it doesn't always work out from the betting side, but yeah, at least kind of your read on most of the fights was correct.
Yeah.
This is the card we've got coming up here in Vancouver. Got the main event, Derrida versus Allen, which should be exciting. In fact, there's lots of exciting fights up and down the card. I don't think it's a great betting card. Initially, when I first looked at it, I thought there'll be some good spots here. But I think actually most of the lines have moved to where they should be. So right now, as we're recording this quite close to the fight now, I don't think there's like great betting opportunities here. And but yeah, I think the card should be entertaining. What do you guys think?
I reckon I have a few rough takes here about potential underdogs winning. If you look towards the bottom here, you got Azamat Bakov versus Yusri Belgarui, or however you say that name. Belgarui is a glory kickboxer, and I have a very big soft spot for those guys. I reckon that he can potentially give Bakov a run for his money here. Obviously, it's going to be an uphill battle because Bakov hits like a truck. But if Belgarui can get his, kickboxing going, if he can expose the rough chin or the rough defenses of Bakov, then I reckon there could be a chance for an upset there, but it's a very slim. Santos versus Barlow. Barlow is moving up in weight, I believe, and whilst he does have a reach advantage, I do think that Santos's speed and his ability to throw that jab and that right overhand or right hook afterwards is going to be a pivotal weapon to neutralize that long reach of Barlow. Other than that, I don't really see too many other upsets. Potentially Vera, maybe. I don't know if Vera's the dog still or if the lines have flipped or whatever, but Holland maybe. But other than those two that I've called out, the Santos and Belgarui fights, I don't really see too many upsets here. What about you, Will? You see anything fun?
Honestly, I feel like this is a card where if you got your work done prior to fight week or Monday, Tuesday, then maybe you'll have found some nice spots in terms of the favorites. But I think a lot of the value has been extracted from a lot of them. We've seen quite a lot of line movement. Melissa Croden was like plus 140 at the start of the week. She's now a favorite. Charles Jourdain was like minus 110 at the start of fight week. He's now like minus 160. So yeah, there are quite a few spots where the value that was available on the close betting lines is kind of like blasted off, and you're left with what you're left with. So the early bird gets the worm in these games. So yeah, it's a tough one now if you're looking at it and you've not got your money anywhere. But thankfully, some of us work quickly. And by that, I mean Here are my bets. So, firstly, got to say, like I've been on holiday for the last week, and I got my work done quite early for this card, so I'm probably going to struggle to remember why I've bet on these things. But these are all bets that I've placed so far. From top to bottom, starting off Marlon Vera for 2 units at plus 137. Just like I was saying about line movement, I think Marlon Vera is like plus 110 now. I think he should be the favorite against Eamon Zahabi. I know it's going to be a close fight, and I know Marlon Vera is a flawed guy. He starts slowly, but I think that he builds into the fight, and I think that he eventually will get the brawl that he so desperately wants when he gets going against Zahabi. There's going to be a lot of circling and a lot of backwards movement from Zahabi, who's probably the better minute winner and the more evasive fighter. But we saw from Jose Aldo, who doesn't have a whole lot of spirit left in the tank. Let's be honest, that you can get at Zahabi. You can land if you want to pressure him. And Marlon Vera is more dangerous than Jose Aldo is, and more dangerous than Eamon Zahabi. So I think that if they do get that like phone booth kind of brawl that Vera will so desperately want, he can win rounds with knockdowns, man. We've seen it before. He needs just one good punch to win a round sometimes. So I think that Vera had a lot more of a chance than the 42% probability that the plus 137 gave him. And furthermore on that one, scorecards are no action. So obviously that means that if the fight goes the distance, then the bet is void. I've bet on Marlon Vera there. So I think that if there's going to be a finish, it's got to be from Marlon Vera. He's so durable, so tough. I don't see him getting submitted or finished by Eamon Zahabi, whereas I think that he can finish or submit Eamon Zahabi. So at minus 180, I'm happy to take a punt on that, because if it goes the distance, I get my money back. So it doesn't feel too risky for me. Furthermore, we've got Carl Nelson versus Matt Frevola, or Frevola. I still don't know how to pronounce it. It must be Frevola because of his nickname being Steamroller. It wouldn't rhyme otherwise. I've got under 2.5 rounds in that fight for 3 units. I just think there's going to be violence there. Matt Frevola has had a finish in like all of his last 6 fights, win or lose. He is a brawler. When he's good, he's a very good striker, very good boxer. But he also is a bit chinny himself. So I think Frevola gives the potential for chaos, whether that's good or bad on his side. And Carl Nelson can crack as well, and Carl Nelson can be hit as well. So. I think a finish is possible on either side. I got minus 137 on this one for 3 units. I think that's out at like minus 180 now. So once again, the line's moved in my favor. Speaking of which, next money line into the prelims. I'm on Charles Jourdain for 3 units. I spoke about it just then. I got in at minus 110. He's fighting Davy Grant. Love Davy Grant, British hero. Grant's a dog, man. He has had such a good time in his last few fights of just getting in the face of his opponent and just staying there, and asking the questions as a veteran against some of these guys who want to fight cute, whereas Davey wants a brawl. And I cashed on him at like plus 200, I think it was, over 250 against him on Blackshear, because I thought Blackshear wouldn't be able to handle that kind of fire. But a guy who would handle that kind of fire is Charles Jourdain. Jourdain loves like brawling, doesn't he? Like he loves to get his hands dirty. He's the kind of guy who gets blood on his gloves and licks it off. Just loves to fight. So I think he is also just younger and a better fighter than Davy Grant, because Davy Grant is like, he's flawed, isn't he? Let's be honest. He's slow. He's plodding. He hits hard, but he's just gritty. And I think Jourdain can match that grit. So I don't think that Grant has the advantages that he typically has had in recent fights. So I think Jourdain should have been a much bigger favorite than to pick him at minus 110. So I bet him for 3 units. Speaking of 3 units, I've also got a parlay on Bikoev and Alaskarov. Alaskarov is on the UFC 321 card, which is the week after. So this is basically just a half and half across 2 cards. Josh mentioned the Belgroi and Bikoev fight. He likes the dog side. I personally think that the grappling advantage that Bikoev is supposed to have should probably come up trumps here. I've never liked what I've seen from Belgroi in terms of his grappling defense. I mean, he is, he's a kickboxer, a glory kickboxer. Like it's pretty obvious that he has more one-dimensional, and I think that Bikoev is pretty decent. And the gap in skill on the mat and then the grappling is far bigger than the gap in skill on the feet. So I think he should be able to get it done. Hopefully he fights smart, because if he doesn't, Josh's underdog side is going to look very good there. And finally, the last fight I'm targeting, Melissa Croden. I mentioned it again in the intro there. I got it at plus 140 for 2 units, and she's now the slight favorite. Her opponent is heavily compromised and is a shell of her former self. Lisboa has had surgery recently, and she was on crutches like a few months ago, I think. Like she's definitely not the fighter she once was, and we saw that in her last fight where she got submitted. Croden to me looks decently well rounded. She looks like pretty serviceable. She's also quite dangerous. Like she's really good with ground and pound. She likes to really put it on her opponent when she's on top of them. And I think Lisboa looked pretty bad off her back in the last fight. So I've also played Croden to win inside the distance at plus 295 for half a unit. So yeah, some bigger like plays overall on this card for me, like lots of 2 unit and 3 unit plays, which to be honest, I'm not super in love with. Like I don't know if I necessarily should be going as hard as I have on these spots. I think I kind of like made a rod for my own back when I started off with the Jourdain 3 units bet, because I kind of feel like when you plant your flag on the first one, you've got to kind of shape the rest of the slate around that kind of stake size. I did go quite big there. So yeah, lots of units on the line for me, and I don't really know how. So hopefully I come out in the green or in the black, as I say. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Lots of spots I really like. Obviously, I've got CLV everywhere, so I'm hoping that that's a good sign, but it doesn't always end up that way. So yeah, just hoping to come away with profit and move on to the pay-per-view next week. How about you, Dom? What you got?
Yeah, similarly to you, I have Charles Jourdain at the top of the slate. Same price, same stake, 3 units. I don't really have anything to add on to what you said. I mean, he's 10 years younger. The stats are very similar for Jourdain as with David Grant in terms of striking, grappling. The output is similar, but Jourdain's been doing it at 145. He's only had 1 fight at bantamweight, which was against Victor Henry, who's a good fighter. So I'm expecting a scrappy, close fight, but I felt like Charles Jourdain should be the favorite, probably around minus 150. And then we've got Matt Pravola here, who I mentioned last episode that I was backing at minus 135, and now he's close to even money. So I averaged out and put another unit on him. I'm going to just maintain that I think he's the better fighter. I know he's a bit chinny, so I think he has to kind of avoid the dangerous elements of Carl Nelson's game, and hopefully he can grind out a win, maybe even finish Carl Nelson, who's stepping up in weight for not the first time. He's never got a win at lightweight in the UFC, so he's 0-2 at lightweight. But yeah, we'll see what happens in this one. Then I've got Jasmine moneyline, 1 unit. I know that Fiore's the favorite. I know why she's the favorite, because she's got good takedown defense. She's a striker. She's generally winning a lot of her fights by decision. The last 6 fights she's had for 1 to decision. So that leads me on to the next bet, which is take Jasmine to win. And if it's a decision outcome, you get your money back. So I've got a unit on that. So sort of spreading my exposure to Jazz. I do like her to win the fight outright. That's why I took the money line. I think she can, if she's persistent enough, she'll get the takedown on Manon, and I think she just needs one takedown and per round to win a round, but potentially just to win the fight. She's got lethal ground and pound. She works to get positioned rather than just staying in one position. She's looking to sub, so she takes risks on the mat, and I like that. Then I've just got some props and parlays down here. It's interesting that the main event is priced like it's going to be a barn burner from the outset, which doesn't really tend to happen in many 5-round fights. We have seen a few recently, but I expect this is going to be a bit of a slow starter with Allen and RDR feeling each other out a little bit. So I was interested that the fight start round 3 is priced at this way, 1.63 or minus 160. So I thought just taking that outright was a good bet, but I also parlayed it with Danny Barlow moneyline for plus money. And then I just had a cheeky punt on the Vera Sahabi fight going to a split decision. Could be one of these ones where Vera typically starts slow. Sahabi isn't the fastest starter. Maybe he'll win round 1, round 2's close, and then usually Marlon's winning round 3, so could go to a split. Just that's the theory behind that one. And then these other bets down the bottom, I'm not sure if I'll play them, but I noticed that the Frivola versus Nelson over 1.5 rounds was minus 150. And I was thinking the reason behind this is that Nelson's been out for over a year. So I expect that he'll want to take some time to get into the fight, to warm up into the fight. So I thought maybe sort of the first round would be a feeling out process. Frivola against Ziam was using his wrestling straight off the rip. If you watch that fight, round one, he takes Ziam down. He gets him down. He's in full mount on Ziam. Unfortunately, he goes for an armbar, and that's where he loses position. So he made a mistake. Otherwise, he made a really good start in the Ziam fight. In the end, he took quite a bad beating and got knocked out. But that was over a year ago as well. So both these fighters have had a year off, hoping for a slow start. I expect the fight will heat up because both these guys, they like a scrap. So it could end in round two, but I went for the over 1.5 rounds. I think it could actually go to decision. So I'm predicting Frivola to probably win it by decision, but we'll see how that one goes. Then I've kind of flip-flopped on this fight a lot, on the Brendan Allen RDR fight. Was quite interested in the Allen money line at plus 200. I felt that had some value. I still kind of... I think RDR is going to get it done. I'm pretty surprised to see that him winning in the championship rounds by decision is such big plus money. So I think that's attractive to me, and that's probably what I'll play. And then lastly, we talked about Zahabi already versus Vera. I'm surprised that this has gone this far, and it looks like Zahabi might end up an underdog come the time of the fight. So I'm just waiting, and if he's an underdog, I'll probably play him. I don't know if I can play him at like evens. But when I first saw the fight and he was minus 150, I was like, I'm never touching Zahabi at minus 150. But at like plus money or close to evens, I feel like he's got all the momentum. It's in Canada. Vera hasn't looked very good. I think Vera can definitely win the fight, and I wouldn't argue that Zahabi's a better fighter than Vera. Just he hasn't looked very good recently, and if that version shows up, the sort of like more tentative fighter who doesn't really wants to get hit, then I think Zahabi will just outpoint him over 3 rounds. And you don't get much value for taking decisions, so you might as well take the money line. What have you got, Josh?
Yeah, I got a pretty basic parlay going on here. I got Luciano Oliveira round 3 starts. Yes, basically, I believe that pretty much mostly all of the women fights will start round 3. So no real finish potential there. Jourdain Grant over 2.5 rounds. That one seems a bit obvious to me because Jourdain is an absolute G on the mat and on the feet, and that's pretty much where Grant thrives. He is mostly a BJJ specialist with a hell of a good punch and a hell of a good leg kick. So I don't expect Grant to really shut down Jourdain on the feet, but on the ground, who knows? So I did take the over 2.5 rounds there, but I don't really expect to finish. Jazz and Fiorot over 2.5 rounds. Again, I don't really expect to finish there. Jazz can potentially finish Fiorot on the ground for a ground and pound or maybe a sub, but I can't really doubt Fiorot here. She is championship material. She does belong in the top division or the top rankings in the division, so I'll take the over here. And then DeRitter Allen round 3 starts. Similar to what Don has, or pretty much the same, really, just worse odds because I was a bit late to the party. As Don pretty much said, people expect this fight to be a barn burner according to the odds, but to me, I think that given the weight of the implication of this fight, right, it's a championship kind of making fight where the winner is going to face Chimaev, somewhere down the line. So I don't think either fighter will make a mistake or try to find the finish early and then make a mistake, and nothing too crazy, right? So I do expect a bit of a tit for tat. I do expect a bit of a Whitaker-esque pace here from what we remember when DeRitter fought Whitaker. It was a very sporadic fight with some intermittent action, but then mostly a standoff for the most part. So I do expect round three to start. The only disappointing thing about this parlay is that the odds suck. The total odds are pretty shit. So as long as those hit, I'm happy. But it's a very, very lackluster parlay. It's very boring. As for the alt bets, Brene Silva via KO or sub double chance. I do like Hyun Sung Park, which is Silva's opponent, but I do not like how he enters the fray too much and completely throws out defense. You know, like he is very much someone who has been chinned before. He has been chinned by Seung-guk Choi back in 2023. He has been chinned by Tyra, although that was more of a knockdown, not a real knockout kind of thing. And Silva has that BJJ to make it a bit dangerous for Park. So I reckon that's a very likely alt bet to hit, but the odds for that, I don't know. Maybe it's gonna be pretty crap. It could be, who knows. The second alt bet there is just the vicious via points. That pretty much goes hand in hand with my Furo over 2.5 rounds bet in the parlay. So no real thought process there, just a chuck it out there kind of bet. And then the more tastier looking thing here to me is Holland via KO sub. The odds might be crap, but I am a Holland fanboy. I have been an avid Trailblazer fan for a long time, and he hasn't really disappointed me in terms of betting. Like whenever he loses great and I win money, and whenever he wins great and I win money. So either way, I am looking forward to seeing how Holland can potentially break apart the golden boy of the Canadian MMA world in Mallet. So that's my last alt bet there. I don't know the odds. I don't know how much money I'll make, but hopefully there'll be less red next week and more green. So yeah, that's my slate for this upcoming event.
The odds on the Bruno Silva KO sub are actually 5 or plus
Ooh.
400. So pretty nice if you like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so next up we got this Bankroll challenge. We had a successful week last week. We went with pod bets of Julia Pilastri to win inside the distance, which she did, and that was a plus 300, I believe. So yeah, that was a good return. We also had the point spread, so that was assuming that she would win either inside the distance or win every round, which she did. So yeah, that was a good week for us, and we're hoping to continue that success this week. And we have some bets lined up, so we're going to go and take a look at those. So we prepared this in advance. We've got the Charles Jourdain money line. We've got Jasmine Jasudavicius inside the distance, decision no action, and then we also have the over 2.5 rounds for the Mike Malott, Kevin Holland. So we've talked about Jourdain enough, haven't we? But Josh, have you got anything to add on why you like him in this matchup?
I just think that he's more quicker, more fluid on the feet, and he has the skill set to basically shut down what Grant could possibly do. His BJJ is enough to force a stand up and maybe not submit Grant, but enough to neutralize any positional advantages or advances that Grant may try. And on the feet, we have seen Jourdain absolutely flow. He is one of the most crispest, I don't know, a crazy good striker. Grant's a bit more of a brute when it comes to striking. He's more of a I don't know, standard person who just kicks and punches. He kicks really well. He punches kind of okay, but Jourdain's speed, his footwork, his ability to read and adjust his movements accordingly to what his opponent does is going to be pivotal in shutting down whatever Grant does. And I expect maybe some Canadian favoritism on the scorecards. I don't know, but yeah, that's my reasoning for taking the money line for Jourdain.
Will, do you have any thoughts on the final two bets? JJ, decision no action, or the over 2.5 for Holland Malott?
The Jasudavicius one's interesting because I personally think that Manon Fiorot should probably win the fight, but the goes distance, no action market again is the key part of that. So in my opinion, the fight entirely pivots around whether or not Jasudavicius can get it down. If Jasudavicius can get takedowns with relative ease and therefore have quite a lot of top control time, I think she should be the clear favorite, because I don't think Manon Fiorot is very good on the bottom. We saw it very briefly in the Valentina Shevchenko fight, and I think Jasudavicius can do a lot of work on top if she gets that time. Whereas if they strike for 15 minutes, I obviously think that Fiorot is better, and that therefore that's why I think she should win. But I don't think that Fiorot is super dangerous in terms of the striking, so she should probably win a decision that way. So you're most likely going to get your money back on this kind of bet. But I think that if Jasudavicius has found a way to get her takedowns going, she's very live for a finish there. So it feels like a kind of small risk, big reward kind of bet, which is exactly what you want from your distance equals no action play. So I think that's a good spot for it. And the over 2.5 in Malott versus Kevin Holland, I think plus 140 is a nice number for that, because Kevin Holland is, yes, a dangerous fighter, but Mike Malott's no slouch. And I guess it's expected that Mike Malott should be able to land takedowns here. And if he does, he's a savvy grappler himself. Kevin Holland is also a savvy grappler. They're both good grapplers. And I think that will kind of lead to a lot of time spent with Malott on top, but not necessarily doing anything super dangerous with it. Clock runs down, we get an over. I don't think this is the kind of fight for there to be like super violence or like one man having a massive gap in skill. I think personally Kevin Holland has slight advantages in a lot of areas, but yeah, Malott's no slouch, so I think it will be a hotly contested fight that probably goes the distance, in my opinion. So plus 140 for over 2.5 rounds feels quite nice to me.
Yep, I've got nothing to add really. Just to say that plus 140 on that. If it's a staring contest on the feet and they cancel each other out on the mat, that will seem like good value. So those are the 3 bets we're going for. Place that. And as always, we'll track our bets as we've been doing so far on our Bet MMA profile. So now we're pleasantly in the green again. So yeah, you can follow us here. Also, we have our social channels listed on the screen here. We've got Discord, we've got Twitter, and we've got a Reddit community as well. So feel free to join us. Any final closing comments for the card, UFC Vancouver, guys?
It's going to be chaos. There's going to be a lot of finishes, I reckon, and yeah, I look forward to seeing how good RDR is against another grappler. So yeah, that's my final thoughts. What about you, Will?
Yeah, some interesting fights. We'll see how they all go. Honestly, like I say, being on holiday, I'm so far removed from this card now that I almost forget who's fighting. So I'm excited to show up and watch some fights. Let's enjoy it.
Thanks everyone, as always, for watching or listening. Thanks for your support. Please leave a like, subscribe, or a comment. That's all greatly appreciated, and see you for the next card.